Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Barry here with the Scryguystv. I know, it's been a while, but what a time to come back when we're talking about Wilds of Eldraine. It's actually one of the Magic things that I have been excited for, and I haven't been excited for Magic in a very long time. I'm not a huge Lord of the Rings fan. I would have gotten back into it more heavily if I was, but Wilds of Eldraine looked like a fun set to seeing all the enchanted tales and all that stuff, so I wanted to come back with this one. And me and Quest, long story, there's like we both have been busy, and so we decided to come back, start making more contact now that our lives have settled down a little bit. And so we want to thank you guys if you're still subscribed and watching our videos. But today we're going to be talking about Wilds of Eldraine, and we're going to be talking about uncommon and common cards to pick up for Commander. Now these are going to be on the more budget option, so for all you budget Commander deck builders out there, definitely check these out. Because you never know when a card will spike up. Like Pitiless Plunder used to be like a 50-cent card, now it's like $5 to $6, and the foil is like 18 or something like that. So let's check out some cards. Up the Beanstalk, 1 and a green enchantment. When Up the Beanstalk enters the battlefield, and whenever you cast a spell with mana value 5 or greater, draw a card. Normally I wouldn't be really too excited about this, but green needs obviously all the card draw to draw into more big chunkers. But I like this because at least it cantrips itself, like 1 and a green, draw a card, and then for later on it sets you up for more card draw, right? Especially if you're playing this not just on a mono green Stompy deck or a Gruul Stompy deck, but if you add it to a Simic Spellslinger deck, something like that, where you're taking extra turns, like all Time Warp, take an extra turn, but also draw a card. And a Modi deck is usually rife with 5 to 6 cost spells, so every time you cast it, you draw a card. So if you say you cast something for 7, draw a card, Cascade, draw a card, or whatever, however you want to layer it or order the stack. And then if you end up running into a 6 into a 5, now you're drawing 3 spells, you're casting 2 spells for free. So I definitely think it's worth a pickup. I think this card is pennies, so we'll see. But yeah, definitely worth a pickup, just because usually these type of cards are, especially for a mono green card, usually they're only for creature spells. So the fact that this is just for anything CMC 5 or greater, which if you're playing green, you're probably going to be at least casting 2 to 3 spells, or maybe you have an Exclamation out, now you're casting like 4 or 5. But it also refills your hand up to cast more big chunkers, especially if you're still into battle cruiser Magic. Let's look at our next card. Tangle Span, Lookout, 2 and a green, creature satyr. Whenever an aura enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. So it's a more narrow Enchantress deck, but especially with this set coming out with all the roll tokens, you're definitely going to be able to at least draw some cards. And then if you're playing a pretty traditional Enchantress deck, whether it be Selesnya or Bant with the 2 Vasa, especially that one, or even the Selesnya, the one girl who make an aura, attach it to a creature. I guess that doesn't work too much for this, but yeah, definitely, you always want more Enchantresses. Usually tables will be like, let's clear out all these Enchantresses, they're drawing too many cards. That Utopia Sprawl drew him 4 or 5 cards. It is a little bit more narrow, that it's just an aura, but because of this set coming out with all the roll tokens, and it's an ETB trigger, which could be good or bad depending, right, on the situation. You definitely still want more Enchantress pieces as much as possible, even if it's a little bit more narrowed down. Like I know there's a 1 in a white, it's that core warrior soldier, whatever, that does like whenever you cast an aura, draw a card, all that stuff. So it's definitely just a little bit, it's I don't know how viable it'll be on other format in the 60 card formats, but at least for Commander, it's a pretty solid pickup. And obviously here's all the role tokens, the monster, sorcerer, royal, young hero, curse, and so really going to be triggering a lot of Enchantress decks. They might want to add those in too as well, where they're just spells that create these token enchantments and have pretty much constellation on them. And Knights of the Sweet's Revenge, 3 and a green enchantment. When it enters the battlefield, create a food. But one of the greatest things about this that's pretty nutty is that foods you control have tap, add a green mana. So I always thought that food was gonna die out. I was like, would it really be a one-off? But no, I guess I was wrong, because we still have food to this day. And not only does it have that, I feel like that would have been enough for this, but the fact that you could pay 5 and 2 green, sacrifice it, and creatures you control get +X equal to the amount of foods you control, only activate as a sorcery. It is an overrun effect as well, so it'll ramp you into that. You could like tap all your foods, sacrifice it, and at least your creatures are gonna get +7/+7. And then especially if you have cards like Garruk's Uprising or Beast Ascension, Beastmaster Ascension, or whatever, you're gonna be swinging for a whole lot. And we are not short on food commanders. Here are some of the more recent ones. Obviously, I forgot to pull the Bagwari one up here, but Sam's Loyal Attendant, Samwise Gamgee, Goose Mother, the 4th Doctor that's going to be releasing, Pippin, Treebeard, all these from Lord of the Rings. Sorry. But there's a lot of other ones. There's like that Chef Commander from back then. Foods are here to stay. So if you have any interest in building any type of these decks, I feel like Knights of the Sweet Revenge is a pretty easy slot into your deck. It'll just advance your game so much faster, so much higher. You're essentially gonna be like, all right, and in a lot of these instants and sorceries and creatures, they come down with free food, so definitely worth a check out if you're gonna go that route. Let's go to our next one, Gadwick's First Duel. I'm not a huge fan of sagas, just because you have to get to the last chapter to usually get to that sweet payout. But this one's pretty sweet. For 2 mana, the first chapter, create a curse roll token, attach up to 1 target creature. So you pretty much like frogify a creature, which for 2 mana is already doing a lot. I think those type of effects are usually the 2 to 3 range. When you get to the second chapter, you scry 2, and then the last chapter, which is a pretty sweet payoff for 2 mana, is when you cast your next instant or sorcery spell, mana value 3 or less, this turn, copy those. You may choose copy that spell. Wow. You may choose new targets for the copy spell. So on that turn, you get to do some powerful things. You get Demonic Tutor twice. You get Jessica's Will. You can, if you want to, Wheel of Fortune twice. There's a lot within that mana value 3 or less that you can do. You could Path to Exile if you want twice. Generous Gift. There's a lot there, so the payoff, if you can get to that, it is really good. And for 2 mana, at least you're making a creature a 1/1, like making a Talia a 1/1 or something like that. Something you don't want to swing at you. So definitely, worth a check out. Bitter Chill, 1 in the blue, enchantment aura, enchant creature. When Bitter Chill enters the battlefield, tap enchanted creature. Enchanted creature doesn't untap during its controller's untap step. And then when it is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, you may pay 1. If you do, scry 1, then draw a card. Now, I'm not a huge fan of like these like claustrophobia effects, just because typically it doesn't take away the ability. So if you can tap a Nyxbloom Ancient, your mana rocks and lands are still gonna tap for 3. But the fact that this almost works as a cantrip as well, like put it on someone's commander, if it's like one of those commanders that need to attack, usually they're gonna try to either sack their own commander, find a way to like kill their commander, or kill the enchantment. So I like this because it's 2 mana. It's like almost like a delayed cantrip where you could just pay 1. Maybe if they're spiteful, they'll wait until you tap out and you can't pay 1, but that'll be really funny. and then you essentially take a creature with an attack trigger out of commission. So definitely worth the check out. Let's see what else we have. Chancellor of Tales, 3 in the blue, creature, fairy advisor, flying. Whenever you cast an adventure spell, you may copy and may choose new targets for the copy. It's 2/3. So this one's going to be a little bit more niche, just like our Aura Enchantress. But you know, in adventures seem to keep coming back. Well, at least for the 2, right? And so it's definitely worth a check out to do this. You know, we in my play group, we rule zeroed one of those adventure commanders, and told our friend, like, hey, you could just make him 5 color, because really he should be 5 colors, right? So to take full advantage of all the sweet adventure cards that are out there. So definitely I feel like he's probably slotting this in there, because you definitely want 2 more trigger. You want an extra trigger, right? It's like a freaking Panormonicon for adventures. So definitely, if you're gonna go that route, I think it's an easy slot. And then Succumb to the Cold, 2 in a blue, instant. Tap 1 or 2 target creatures an opponent controls, put a stun counter on each of them. It was between this or the 3 mana instant divination to draw 2 cards. I like it's like a tempo play, pretty much. Tap maybe 1 or 2 of the biggest threats on the board, and then put them out of commission with a stun counter. And if you can find a way to proliferate, you could definitely take them out for a little bit longer. I usually don't like these effects, but because it puts a stun counter and keeps them out of commission for a turn or 2, if you find a way to proliferate, definitely worth to check out. See, maybe it doesn't go in every deck, but you know, the Hilda deck is one that it can go into, so definitely check that out. See, oh, we got Flick a Coin, 2 in a red, instant. Flick a Coin deals 1 damage to any target. You create a treasure token, and you draw a card. I'm not a red deck connoisseur, so I don't know how good this is, but I do like it just because it does a little bit of everything. It's a, what's it called, jack of all trades, master of none. But you know, you could probably ping like a birds or elvish mystic. You create a treasure token, so you do ramp a little bit, which red is not really great at ramping. And then you get to draw a card. So it's a cantrip, it's a ramp spell, and it's possibly a removal spell, or maybe someone's just at 1 life. So that's pretty cool. It's a fun card, and the fact that it's instant really helps, being a possible slot into any kind of deck that has red in it. We have Grabby Giant. This one's a personal favorite for me. On the common slot, 3 in a red. It has the adventure side is That's Mine. 1 in a red, instant, create a treasure token. So, you know, it's like strike for treasure, but at instant speed. But I'm more excited about the creature side, which is reach, 2 in a red, sacrifice an artifact or land, draw a card, which is really awesome because the One Ring is here to stay in Commander, at least in Commander, right? And at a certain point, you know, you might not be able to take that damage anymore. So 2 in a red, sack it. At least you get to draw a card before you hit the damage, or you tap with the One Ring, draw all those cards, and then you sack it, draw another card, and that way you don't have to take 8 to 9 to 10 damage for being a little bit greedy on it. And also for the fact that you can sack a land, which if your commander, you know, your commander can get Song of the Dryad or Imprison in the Moon. And I'm pretty sure that works as like the creature, or that it is now counted as land, so you have to rule check it, but then you could get your commander back, because obviously there's some things that are just really hard to get rid of in certain colors, and enchantments are one of them. Typically blue and black don't do the best at getting rid of them, unless you know, black has found a way to get more, or red, you know, chaos warp it. So that's pretty rough. So I think this is, if you're playing red in anything, like you maybe have a Grixis deck and your commander keeps getting imprisoned on the moon, definitely this might be worth a pickup, and you get a draw card. And the fact that it doesn't tap. Usually I always feel like effects like this tap to do it. You could keep doing this as long as you have the mana, so that can get crazy if you get into some sort of infinite mana loop. Let's get to our next one, Witch's Mark, 1 in the red. This is just worse Thrill of Possibility because it's at Sorcerer's Speed. But you may discard a card if you do draw a card, draw 2 cards, and then create a Wicked Roll token. which will give your creature a +1/+1, and then when the aura is put into the graveyard, each opponent loses a life. This one's a little slim pickings, but you know, that's all I gotta say about that. And then we have Boundary Lands Ranger, 1 in the red. It's a human ranger. At the beginning of your combat on your turn, if you control a creature with power 4 or greater, you may discard a card, and if you do, draw a card. It's a 2/2. So any Gruul deck might want this to rummage through, or you could do red decks, whatever. It's just another rummaging for free, which is what we like over here. As an Asian person, you like free. Let's go to another. Oh, this one is one I wanted to talk about. Discerning Financier, 2 in white. At the beginning of your human noble. At the beginning of your upkeep, if an opponent controls more lands than you, you create a treasure token. White's always having a hard time getting lands out, if you're not in green. And so this is another way for you to catch up to the table, but it also has 2 in the white. Choose another player. That player gains control of target treasure you control, and then you get to draw a card. And you could do that at instant speed if you really need to dig through your deck. But it kind of reminds. It feels almost like a white Pitiless Plunder. Obviously, Pitiless Plunder is a lot more. It's a lot more powerful than this, but it gets you to catch up a little bit if an opponent controls more land. And if you're playing Commander, there's always somebody that's way ahead, that's going crazy in Simic and brought all the lands out of his deck, and probably the game's not going much longer than that, but it gives you a chance to catch up. And then the fact that you could also gift some treasures away and to draw a card is also nice too. So definitely worth a pickup if you're playing like anything light that you might be lacking in lands. Definitely check this out. We have Return Triumph, 1 and a white sorcery. Return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. Create a young hero role token attached to it. It states whenever a creature attacks, if its toughness is 3 or less, put a 1/1 counter on it. So this is just white unearth. The young hero role token is kind of meh, but we do have a lot of commanders that are 3 or less. We have we have creatures like the Rowan and Will. Those are 3 or less. I got Yuriko. There's a bunch, right? Freaking Marwyn. There's a lot of creatures out there that are 3 or less, especially commander creatures. This one will probably be more towards the white commanders, but any kind of recursion I feel like in white is great. Even for, you can get Dockside back with this, which is always nutty. So yeah, definitely worth a pickup. We have The Princess Takes Flight, 2 and a white. It is a saga. The first chapter is exile up to 1 target creature. Chapter 2 is target creature you control gets +2/+2 and gains flying. And then chapter 3, return the exile card to the battlefield under your control. But with all the bargain mechanics that's in here, you want to play this for the 3 mana, exile up to 1 target creature, and then bargain something, and then now that creature is just gone away. Maybe a player is gonna get greedy and be like, yeah, whatever, here, have my commander. I'm not gonna put it to the exile zone because I don't want it to cost 2 more extra or 4 more extra. I'll just get it back on the 3rd chapter, or they try to destroy, or they won't try to destroy it. And then after that, you're like, all right, cool, I'm gonna bargain this away. So now the commander is just it's permanently gone. So yeah, I think it's worth that if you have mechanics where you can kind of get rid of this before the chapter 3 goes off. Maybe you have something that can let you sack enchantments or sack permanents. So if that's where your game plan is going towards, or if you have a player that is like that, definitely worth a try. And then we have Stroke of Midnight, 2 and a white instant. Destroy target non-land permanent. Its controller creates a 1/1 white human creature token. Worse generous gift, but I typically don't really like to pop lands, especially when you're trying to pop lands. You're going for essential lands, like, oh, that's your only red source, and you're Jeskai deck, alright, cool, let me pop that. Or that's your only blue source, let me pop that. I'm not really typically like that. I also don't play Janeth Magistrate, so you can see why. So this would just look to me as like a second generous gift. Obviously, if like the game is on the line, probably will do it, but this one is worse generous gift. But still, it doesn't give them a 3/3 creature that could possibly matter, because every creature on the board matters, guys. But yeah, redundancy is always good and all that stuff. This would only be better if it exiled, so. But definitely worth a pick up, because they're already $1.50, by the way, which is crazy for a uncommon. And the fact that Quest, who had done a box opening for the channel recently, I think he only pulled like maybe one out of it. It kind of felt like Fatal Pushes. Obviously not as strong for the 60 card format as Fatal Pushes, but yeah, I hate how Wizards does that sometimes. Like, there'll be like a short print run of specific uncommons. It's funny. We have Back for Seconds, 2 in a black sorcery Bargain, which we just talked about. Return up to 2 target creature cards from your graveyard to your hand. If this spell was Bargain, you may put one of those cards with mana value 4 or less onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your hand. Now, some people would be like, well, just play Victimize. Sometimes you don't have a creature to sack, and this will get you there. So definitely a lot of things that a lot to consider in your deck building for this type of thing. Maybe like, because sometimes with Victimize, maybe you don't want to put them onto the battlefield. Maybe you want to get a cast trigger, so it might be like some sort of Eldrazi or like a Hydroid Crisis. You want the cast triggers. Specific monsters always matter, but you want to be like, all right, here, I'll put a Dockside down, or I'll put a Shieldred down, because that's 4 mana for no reason. You want to put that down, and then you want to hold up one creature, and so for the next turn you can cast it, get the cast trigger, and go off like that. So everything always is in consideration of what your deck is trying to do, and bargaining is super easy in Commander. You know, you always have treasures, clues, foods out, especially now, and things that you might just want to sack, or maybe you have some creature tokens, so bargain isn't as hard. And for 3 mana, yeah, that's kind of worth it. We have Rowan's Grim Search, 2 in the black, instant bargain. If this spell is bargain, look at the top 4 cards, then put 2 of them back on top of your cards in any order, and the rest into your graveyard, and then you draw 2 cards and you lose 2 lives. So this is basically a read the bones. A little bit better though, because sometimes you start to get mana flooded, and maybe you want to like ditch some lands, or maybe cards aren't helpful for the situation right now. And the fact that it's at instant speed obviously is better. We have Hopeless Nightmare, 1 black enchantment. When Hopeless Nightmare enters the battlefield, each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. And then when it's put into the graveyard from the battlefield, scry 2, and then you can sack it. Just a pretty decent 1-drop at an enchantment, especially if you're trying to find things to bargain away, or maybe you're playing some sort of enchantress deck. This is could also serve as like a 1 mana, everyone discards a card, lose 2 life, I'll draw 2, 3, 4, or 5 cards, whatever. You know how those enchantress decks gets. So and it's a common, so what do you expect? And then we have Not Dead After All, a black instant. Until the end of turn, target creature you control gains. When this creature dies, return it to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control, then create a Wicked Roll token. So it gets a little bit of a buff. It's an instant speed, and there's plenty of effects like this, but you never know when the enchantment matters. When you need enchantment to target a constellation, like it was a Doomwake Giant. Oh yeah, I'll put my commander back on, or Doomwake Giant's gonna die, so I'll recur it, and then now it's entering with the constellation. All creatures get -1/-1, and then the Wicked Roll token hits, so all opponents' creatures get -2/-2, and it could possibly work as a little mini board wipe. So definitely don't overlook that situation too. Again, all of these are pretty deck specific, and just that's where it matters, right? Now, and then we got the colorless stuff. We have Collector's Vault, 2 artifact, 2 tap, draw a card, then discard a card, create a treasure token. awesome, especially for the early game if you want to loot, and the fact that it creates you treasure tokens. So you could have that. You could have an Academy Rector, so you tap 2, draw a card. Academy Rector trigger, stack goes. Then you're creating a treasure, a clue, and a food token. And then you have that one girl from Baldur's Gate that has the tokens all have tap Atagreen. That's awesome. It's doing a lot. I know, they had to put the tap someone there because then someone at the end step will just be like, oh, Isochron Scepter. Obviously, you can pair it with an Isochron Scepter, which, wow, is kind of nuts. And then we have, so definitely check that out. I think it's a low key card. Some people might not find it too threatening in the early game, but yeah, if you're playing an Isochron Dramatic Reversal line, this could get pretty bad pretty fast. Because, untap all your stuff, draw a card, discard a card, create a treasure, you're making more mana. So you're always netting something, right? And then we have Eretit's Tempting Apple, 4/4 legendary artifact food. When it enters the battlefield, gain control of target creature, untap it, gains haste, which is cool. But it also has sack it, you gain 3, or sack it, a target opponent loses 3 life. So it's doing a lot for 4. You at least maybe you get to tempt a Nyxmoon Major. I always feel like that's like the big one, or even like a Vorinclex, something like that. Or maybe like a turn you have like an AC. There's a lot of creatures that you want even just for a turn. But I think it's a low key artifact that yeah, definitely check it out. And then these are my 2 favorite little uncommon commanders: Greta Sweet Tooth Scourge, 1 black and green legendary creature human warrior. When it enters the battlefield, create a food token, pay a green, sacrifice a food, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, activate only as food, and then 1 in a black, sacrifice a food, you draw a card and lose a life. So it's like a little toolkit commander, and that looks like a fun build to do. And then we have Troyan Gutsy Explorer. Wow, why did I trail off on that? 1 and Simic legendary creature Vidalcan Scout. Tap it, add Simic, spend this mana only to cast spells with mana value 5 or greater, or spells with X in their mana cost. And then it also has a looting effect. Blue, tap, draw a card, then discard a card. Doing everything Simic wants to do. A possible mana dork, or possible drawing cards. It's not fair. It's not fair that Simic gets all the toys. And yeah, I think that's it. Definitely tell me what your guys' favorite uncommon and common things are from Wilds of Eldraine. Tell me if you like the list, if you found this helpful, maybe, because I know a lot of us overlook a lot of commons and uncommons unless you're playing Pauper or Artisan. Tell me if this helps you sort of like look at some different cards a different way, and maybe, yeah, maybe I'll keep making more. Alright guys, have a good one.